Hello and welcome to our NewsX podcast show, which is Get Candid with Chitvan. Here with me is Dr. Sheetal Jindal, who is Senior Consultant Jindal IVF. Hi, Doctor. How are you?
Good, I'm fine.
So, my very first question to you: what motivated you to specialize in reproductive and endocrinology and infertility management?
Okay, so that's a question, it's a very, what I would like to tell you is where there is a will, there is a way. So, honestly speaking, when I was doing my MD, I never wanted to pursue obstetrics and gynecology as a career. But then in those days, medicine, surgery, and gynae were used to be considered very good branches, and I was getting that. And I was per se interested in doing biochemistry or maybe physiology because I wanted to work in the very basic sciences. And but then my father said no. Try taking gynae because that was a branch back then which used to be considered very good for girls. Okay, and I never used to like doing deliveries and all. And but when I went into my MD, while I was doing my MD, I just came across a book which was by the name of Reproductive Endocrinology by Leon Spiroff. All people who would have done this, who are doing MD Gynae today also, would be reading that book probably. But it's a book which is not back then in those days. Not everyone used to read it, and I was just in love with that book, and that was totally on endocrinology. Back then, I was not knowing that probably this is going to be my future, but I was in absolute love with that book, and that endocrinology really, really stimulated me. And so then, my luck by chance, when I got married when I met my husband, I realized that my family, it's our family business of IVF. So it all started from there. And when I told my husband and my mom that I
Okay.
just love doing IVF and I'm very much interested in endocrinology, so they said, you pursue it as a career, you must pursue it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how the whole thing started.
So nice. Can you explain the role of genetic diagnosis in modern fertility treatments?
See, genetics is a branch which has evolved recently, probably in the last 15 years only, I would say. And uh, means initially it used to be, it was said that ki genetics wale bele baithte hain. I mean, if you talk like that. But yes, with the now what has happened is with the ease in the diagnostic facility with respect to genetics, with respect to genetic tests, after the human genome has been totally, deciphered, I would say, the tests with the introduction of next generation sequencing, the testing has become quite cheap. And that is how, it is a revolution which has occurred in the field of medicine. And genetics is going to be the future of medicine. We all will see that in the future. So genetics is something which is so everything, our color, our hair, our body, our functioning, everything is decided by our genes. So a lot of times, and there are a few of the genetic disorders which are very, very common in this part of the country, like Down syndrome. We all would have heard of a Mongol baby, which is very, very common. Then thalassemia, we all would have heard of. It's a disorder in which, if it's a thalassemia major child, that child has to take blood transfusions every 3 weeks. So these are big terms, but they are all diseases which have a genetic basis, and they travel from one family to the another. So a few years back, how the genetic diagnosis was done was, let's say a female gets pregnant, and in case there is a problem with the baby, uh, how the diagnosis was only once the female had gotten pregnant, and you used to do that amniocentesis, in which you insert a needle in the mother's womb and you take out the fluid from the which is there around the baby. And in case the test comes positive on that amniotic fluid, the mother had to abort, but there was no other option which was available.
Hmm.
But now with the introduction of IVF, this genetic diagnosis can be done before the mother is pregnant in these common disorders.
Okay.
And thus, you can save the mother from having to go through the pain of abortion. So, in this way, genetics per se, in infertility also, if we say a female has recurrent abortions, in those cases also, in few of the cases, you might end up finding some genetic problems. And there is probably PGT, which is, we call it pre-implantation genetic testing. In such cases in which there is a familial problem, genetic disease, which is traveling from generation to generation,
Yeah.
or a female who is having some recurrent abortions, in those cases,
Hmm.
yes, you can, with the help of pre-implantation genetic testing, which is like you test the embryo for a particular disorder before making the mother pregnant.
Hmm.
You can help save a lot of pain, which the family will probably have to undergo once she gets pregnant. So this is how genetics is shaping the. This is a change from the past, that in which the mother had no choice, but now she does have.
So, how does Jindal maintain its high success rate compared to global standards?
So this center, Jindal IVF, carries a legacy. Dr. Umesh Jindal, she's a known figure in infertility across in the country, in India. And she was motivated to start IVF, and she passed out from PGI, and after that, in 1989, she went into her own practice. And from since then, she's had a bent towards infertility. So those were the times when there were like few 10, 20 clinics pan India who were the pioneers and who started this infertility practice. And from there, slowly and slowly, Jindal IVF, under the guidance of Dr. Umesh Jindal, has created a very big team. So we are approximately 10, 12 gynecologists who have vast experience in the field of infertility. So I think infertility is a teamwork. It is not just, it is the core of IVF is the clinician as well as a good IVF laboratory where the embryos are cultured and made. So there has to be a very, very, close connection between the two to give high success rates. Our Jindal IVF's vast experience in dealing with all sorts of patients, our wonderful, excellent IVF lab, then I would say, uh, we always keep ourselves abreast with the latest developments. So we have a lot of firsts to our credit. The first IVF baby in Chandigarh, in this part of the country, was given by Jindal IVF. Very soon we realized that ICSI has to be added to our armamentarium. So we added ICSI. And then after that, whatever new equipment used to come in the field of IVF, we used to buy that. And so the latest is PGT. We introduced pre-implantation genetic testing, which involves biopsying the embryos. So all these firsts which we have, and the experience and the close, we work very hard and we give a very personalized approach. We see the patient very holistically. I think this is the biggest strength. Our team, our dedication, and the embryologists. We have in-house embryologists, and I think that is what is the crux of which gives a lot of success to the center.
So, my next question to you: what challenges do you often face when treating complex infertility cases, and how do you overcome them?
Now, this is a very important question which you have put to me. So complex cases, IVF has expanded worldwide. It is the infertility is on the rise every year. If we see our own data, the infertile female's age, which is who comes to our clinic, is increasing by almost like 1 year. So currently, the average age which we see in our OPD is 35 to 36 years. So, and naturally, with the boom of so many IVF clinics, because it is a rapidly, just because late age of marriage, females are more career oriented. So we see we are doing IVF like never before. And naturally, if a female is facing fertility issues, an infertile female can come up with any sort of problem. She can be she can have any medical disorder in the world, and then she can have very typical, very there could be complex surgeries which the female might have to undergo before embarking on her treatment for IVF.
Yeah.
So there could be a female who is having repeated in IVF failures. There could be a female who has some genetic problem. There could be a female who has recurrent abortions. So I think to deal with complex cases, it is very important to go into the detail of each case, discuss it, see the larger picture as well as the smaller picture with respect to patient, a very personalized approach. So all these things, if you do, you're able to, help patients. Approximately 70-80% of the patients are able to take a baby back home.
Yeah.
So one thing which is very, very important is you just do not have to make a female pregnant. You have to give her a baby in hand. So it is very important to have a holistic picture of the case. Each should be dealt in a very personalized manner. It is not like that a case of infertility has come, there is a tubal block, or there is some cyst in the ovary, you do an IVF for her. I think it should not be like that. So I think infertilities do no harm. It is just not that you are like making, the patient spends a lot of money. Infertility is not a very cheap treatment also. So you have to see everything. You have to see time, money, energy, and emotional aspect of the patient. And that is what, helps solve a lot of problems.
True. So, how has the field of fetal medicine evolved and what future trend do you foresee?
Fetal medicine is going to stay. It is going to stay. But and what I would say is that PGT, pre-implant IVF, and PGT are going to connect finally into fetal medicine. So fetal medicine is something. Uh, it just helps in the diagnosis once the female gets pregnant. But IVF genetic patients who have genetic problems,
Yeah.
if you can diagnose them before, making the female pregnant, then those patients ultimately probably might land up, with a fetal medicine expert to be very sure that whatever was tested before putting in an embryo, just for confirmation, you do need fetal medicine experts to help them out. So I think there is going to be a very good connect between an IVF expert, a geneticist, and a fetal medicine expert in the future. And together they can make a wonderful team and help patients with genetic disorders.
So, what advancement in technology are helping shape the future of IVF treatment at Jindal IVF?
Okay, so I think in Jindal IVF, the most important things which I've already talked about, one, that we follow very holistic approach in dealing with patients. The second thing is our freezing protocols. So we have lots and lots of patients who do a single IVF, and after the IVF, we have made multiple embryos. We have frozen those embryos, and from a single cycle of IVF, they could complete, their families. It is like with one embryo transfer, they got one baby, and those patients come after 2-3 years. Then their embryos are lying with us, frozen. So they get a re-embryo implantation, and then they have two babies together over a gap of 3 years, and they are now happy couples. So I think this freezing program in any IVF center has to be good.
Yeah.
And then introduction of all the newer technologies which are available. So we all keep ourselves abreast. We have a very strong academic program, which is amongst doctors, we keep discussing amongst each other. Okay, we discuss difficult cases. We try to read and discuss about whatever new has come and try to apply it in our practice. I think all these things, and maybe the introduction of PGT, as I've been talking before, also, all these things have really, really helped us to stay, you know, up to the mark in our practice at Jindal IVF.
So, could you share a particular memorable success story from your work at Jindal IVF?
Okay, so I would like to share a case of repeated IVF failures. That patient was a young patient and had come to me from some interiors of Haryana. And what had happened was that patient was like very, very shattered because she had had 3 or 4 IVF failures before. And when she came to me, she said, "Ma'am, I have no confidence that I will be able to conceive with my own eggs. And so you please, we don't want to use our own gametes. You use a donor egg and you use a donor sperm and just put in an embryo. This is my last chance. And you have to give me success in the first attempt now." And then I did her scan, I did an ultrasound for her, and I realized that, she's a young girl of 33 years, and how should I even say her that because she's had multiple
What
failures.
what was the age of that girl?
33 years.
23 years.
33.
Yeah.
And so when I did a scan, I said, how can I do a donor egg for her because she's a young girl, and just putting in someone else's, but it was patient's demand. And I was like, but then she was very adamant. She said, no, ma'am, I've had so many failures. And she had been to a lot of reputed centers. And then uh, then I said, okay, so we'll do with a donor egg and a donor sperm. We'll make embryos from there, and then we will transplant. So then she said, okay. And then, subsequent 3, 4 visits, she used to keep coming, and we have to do multiple scans in the visits to come. And every time I used to do a scan, I used to feel, no, she should not be offered a donor egg and a donor sperm. But she has had so many failures. Taking a chance on such a case is a very difficult thing. And but then somehow, probably she also developed some confidence in me. Every time I used to see her, I used to tell her, अपनी एग से नहीं ट्राई करोगे, एक बार करना चाहिए. When she used to hear it, never say yes. But finally, when I booked her for the case, she said, "Okay, ma'am." In one go, she said, "Okay, let's try with my own eggs. If you are saying so, okay, we'll try."
Hmm.
And then when I did her IVF, and after that, she conceived in the first attempt, and she got a baby in hand. So, I mean, that was like a very, very, because such cases are very challenging. So, a person who has had 4 IVF failures, doing the fifth cycle for her is like a very big thing. And when she conceived in the first attempt, then it was like she just cried. I mean, she was not believing that this has happened. But then she didn't believe until she was like 6, 7 months
Mm-hmm.
of a pregnancy had passed. Usually, the patients are scary. They don't believe it unless they start feeling the fetal movements. And after that, once she delivered, then, and it was during those COVID times. And I think this was one case I will never forget, how I managed to change her opinion from, it was very easy for me to use a donor egg and a donor sperm, but we did with their own gametes, and it was successful in the first attempt. God's grace.
So nice.
Happy for the, that was nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So my
Otherwise, also there are lots and lots of cases which we keep doing. So every case is a challenge. So a lot of genetics cases, they patients who have genetic disorders and all. So I mean, yeah, but this one I remember very well.
this is beautiful. So my last question to you: how does the Amity University Fellowship Program benefit doctors specializing in infertility?
Yeah, so Amity Fellowship was started by Indian Fertility Society. It's a diplomate program. Before that, there have been a few DNB programs, diploma courses, which were going on in the field of infertility. Infertility is a super specialization. So Amity University course has formalized this whole event. So otherwise, apart from 2, 3 institutes, there were not many certified courses which were available. And the students post MD who wanted to pursue career IVF as a career did not have any options as to where they could get a lot of experience and then just come into practice. So this Amity University Fellowship, we get 1 to 2 candidates per year, and these candidates, when they come to us, they see those complicated cases, they see routine IVF cases, they see pickups. So they understand, so it gives them a very practical approach. And as per the new ART law also, now it is mandatory that they have to, do at least 50 pickups, and they should at least spend 3 years. So this much, so these fellowship programs, they are able to formalize the education and give them a very practical, look of the IVF and guide them.
Thank you, Dr. Jindal, for sharing your invaluable insight and contribution to the world of reproductive medicine. It's clear that your dedication and expertise are transforming the life of countless families. We wish you continued success in your bringing hope and joy to those on their journey parenthood. And this has been another inspiration episode of Get Candid with Chitvan. Stay tuned for more stories that redefine boundaries and shape for the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you.